introductions. So welcome everybody to Platform Power Hour. This is a monthly webinar series hosted by a committee of volunteers like myself who are here to bring you the latest and greatest on the Salesforce platform. And we talk about all aspects of the platform, automation, profiles, permissions, everything that you can think of that you need to know as an admin or a user or an architect to help you take better advantage of everything that the platform has to offer. These sessions typically run about 40 minutes to an hour with questions, and we're really excited to have you here. My name is Sarah Pilzer, and I am the Director of Operations at a nonprofit called the Country Dance and Song Society, and I use Salesforce every day to help my users do fundraising and program management. And I just love how easy it is to build on the platform to make great products for our users. I'm really excited and happy to be here with Andy Utkin, who is a 11-time certified application architect, and he is also very passionate about automating business processes, especially using Flow, which is one of my favorite platform tools. Andy is also the creator of a YouTube channel called Salesforce Break, where there's a lot of great tutorials and information about how to different use cases for using Flow. And he's going to show us some great use cases today. So before I turn it over to Andy, I'm going to launch a little poll because we like to ask all of our Platform Power Hour guests and attendees a poll to get them engaged at the beginning of our sessions. So today, what we'd like to know is which of these tools, automation tools, have you used in Salesforce? So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll, and go ahead and you can select all that apply. So if you've used workflow rules, process builder, or flow builder, which of these tools have you used? All right, we have answers coming in. Waiting on a few more, but
it's just pretty fascinating to watch the progress, right? You know.
yeah, I like watching these little bars come along. All right, great. Well, if you didn't get a chance to answer, we can throw it in the chat. But it's a good point that we could have had a none option also. But it looks like process builder and Flow, here, let me share the results. Process builder and Flow are about equal in terms of what people are using, and that seems to be a little bit more popular than workflow rules. But what we're going to cover today is all three of these tools and how to move from workflow rules and process builder into Flow builder. So I think with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Andy.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for the introduction. And I'm really excited to talk to you about workflow rules and process builders and the popular use cases that we built using those tools. And I'm going to show you that it's quite easy to actually build those same use cases also using the Flow builder. Let me share my presentation with you.
Oh, one thing, Andy, I forgot to mention that if you have questions anytime throughout this webinar, go ahead and put them, there's a Q&A option. You can put them there or put them in the chat, and I will, there'll be time to answer them at the end, but Andy is also able to answer them as we go along. So anytime you have a question, shoot it our way and we'll get it answered. All right, back to you.
All right. So today's topic is build your workflow processes as record triggered flows. Now, I've seen in the chat window that we have also participants who have not used workflow or process yet. So for those folks, I would just focus on the flow examples. Flow is the future. There's no reason for you to learn or relearn workflow or process at this point. And I'll tell you why. Now, there was actually a month ago a very good session by Michelle, and Michelle introduced you to flow. So what is going to be the next step for you? So the questions that usually surface, especially after the announcements in Dreamforce that workflow rules and process builders are going to be retired eventually. So we usually ask ourselves, do I build new automation on flow? Do I migrate existing automation? And will I lose my functionality when I migrate my automation to flow? So we have actually a path in front of us, and we want to take the next step, and we want to make the right call, right? I inserted a couple of Squid Game memes for you. So this path is not going to be as dangerous as that one, but there are a lot of factors you want to think about. Now, my name is Andy Engin Atkan, and I'm an 11 certified application architect and a senior consultant at Serious Solutions. And it's very easy to find me on social channels. I'm virtually everywhere. I share flow stuff on multiple different channels. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I run a YouTube channel called Salesforce Break. I have more than 40 videos there, about 1,200 subscribers. I started a Salesforce Break Slack workspace. We have close to 300 folks over there. And the only rule we have is there are no silly questions. So you can come on, ask your questions when you get stuck. And I'm also the author of a Salesforce Lightning Flows Udemy course. So we also have about 1,200 students on that course. So needless to say, I'm quite passionate about, teaching people flows and the power of flows and how they are superior compared to workflow and process. So that's what we are going to talk about today. You can say I'm quite biased on that topic. So what do we usually use workflow rules and in some cases, process builders? The typical use cases are field updates, creation of a task, and sending out an email alert, right? So those are the things that we have been doing with these tools. And in many orgs, we have actually tens of those, like we have built those over the years. We don't even know whether they are necessary anymore. Nobody really took the time in their busy schedules to go back and reassess what they do. So my first tip for you is going to be, if you're preparing to migrate your automation from workflow rules and process builders, you want to make sure that you create a very good inventory, you do some documentation and see what you need to migrate, how those can be combined in a powerful tool like Flow when you're bringing the functionality over. But we are going to show you today a one-to-one functionality, one-to-one migration. So we're not going to try and combine a couple of workflow rules into one on the Flow Builder side, for example. So the first use case is actually a very popular one. What we want to do sometimes is our users give opportunities their preferred names, but we want to sometimes standardize what the opportunity name should be. So we can actually create automation that is going to combine strings and then name our opportunity in a standard way. And in this example, we are combining the account name and the origin of the opportunity, the lead source, and the word opportunity to create the opportunity name. So how do we do that in a workflow rule? In a workflow rule, you'll see on your left side that we create a workflow rule on a new opportunity creation. And the interesting thing about workflow rules is you cannot run the workflow rule automation without giving it a criteria to narrow it down as a start condition. So at this point, I actually chose to give it as criteria, which is not totally necessary because it's only going to run when a new opportunity is created. It doesn't really run on update. And what's important on the right side is you need to create a little formula, and you can do that all inside your workflow rule to combine some variable information and some static string that'll form your opportunity name. So I'm combining account.name and the character dash, and I'm using the lead source field value, and that's a picklist field. So I need to convert that to text. And combining that again with the end character, that's how you actually combine variable and static strings together to form your formula. I combine that with a dash opportunity at the end. That's how you do it using the workflow rule builder. And in the process builder, what you do is it's quite similar. So you are going to, again, run this on a new opportunity creation. And you're going to have a check, does the name contain a dash? I use the same entry criteria kind of thing. You know, there is no entry criteria on the process builder, but I use the same decision criteria to trigger this automation, which is not necessary. It's not required on the process builder side. You can actually unconditionally run your automation on the process builder side. And I'm going to update the opportunity with the same formula. The syntax could be a little bit different, but you know, process builder has a formula builder inside, so it's quite useful. It's not that hard. Once you get some practice, you can construct the same name. So how do you do it on the flow side? So you need to create a new flow, and that needs to be a record triggered flow. And you can choose auto layouts, and you go to the screen where you need to choose which object you need to start your automation on. You choose, you want to start your automation when a record is created, and you want to choose fast field updates. This is a very important point. I'm going to give you some more information about it a little bit later. Now, after you go inside your flow, you simply add an element for update records. And I'm going to call this one update opportunity name. And I want to assign a value to the name field. I'm presented with a list of fields that are available on the opportunity. On the right side, I need to create a new resource to construct the string that I need. And that resource is going to be a formula. I can create this resource either inside this dialog or on the left panel beforehand. So I'm going to name this opportunity name formula, insert $record. Whenever we're using a record triggered flow, we are using the $record notation to refer to the record and the field values that trigger the flow. So in this case, this is actually the opportunity, and I'm going up from the opportunity to the account and grabbing the name, using, again, the end character, combining that with a dash, another end, and at this stage, I'm going to go back to my picker, grab the $record lead source. Remember, I have to convert that to text, so I have to use my text function. And I'm going to combine that with the word opportunity. Now, the flow builder, the formula builder on the flow side is not bad, but the interesting thing about that one is if you actually have something wrong in the syntax, you're not going to get an error message here. So now the name and the resource has been created, is going to be assigned. And as soon as I hit save, if I have a syntax error in my formula, I'm going to receive an error message. That's when I receive my error messages inside Flow related to formulas and everything else. So when I hit save, I have to name my flow. It's important that you follow a naming convention that you like and activate. And once I activate my flow, I'm ready to go. So this is going to do the exact same thing, folks, that I've shown you on the workflow builder and process builder side. And I timed this one. It takes exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's very simple. There's nothing to be scared about. So our next use case. So when we create a new lead, and the lead is coming from a partner referral, we want to automatically mark the rating hot, and we want to automatically create a task that'll be 7 days apart in due date so that we can follow up on that lead. So how do we do that on the workflow rule side? So we are going to create a new workflow rule, and it is going to run on lead whenever the lead source equals partner referral. And I am going to create 2 actions on the workflow rule side. So one is going to be create a task. The other one is going to be a field update. Field update you have seen already. This is very simple. So I need to take the rating field and then update the rating field to the pick list value hot. And for the task creation, workflow rule gives me a very nice form to fill out. And it also makes it simple for me to pick a due date that's 7 days apart. So I can simply type 7 days and then take as a reference the rule trigger date. So it's going to be 7 days after the rule trigger date. And I need to fill out also the subject and the comments and the lead owner and whatnot. It's simple. So how is that done on the process builder side? Again, I run this on lead creation, and my decision step is going to check whether the source is partner referral. And I'm going to have, again, 2 immediate actions here: update the rating hot and create a task. Now on the process builder side, it gets a little bit more difficult. I need to create a simple formula to assign the due date. So that's going to be now, parentheses +7. So it means 7 days from now. And I need to also remember which field values I need to fill in, which ones are required. And sometimes I need to also remember the exact name and the notation of the fields, like name and who ID, that kind of stuff gets a little bit tricky, but that's not related to the process builder, the way the activity object and the task is structured. So in the flow builder, this is, again, super simple, a little bit more complicated again compared to task, but I'm going to tell you there is also another way. Now, on the flow builder side, this is going to be, again, a super simple flow with 2 elements only after the start element. The important point here, this is where I want to remind you that the selection of fast field updates and actions and related records are very important. So when you go to that new flow screen, on the left side, you see the fast field update. For folks who are experienced building flows before winter 22, will know that as a before say flow. So whenever you want to do a fast field update and you're not going to do any actions or you're not going to do any related record operations, you can choose fast field update. Fast field update is super fast and efficient, and it's not an operation mode that's available to workflow rules or process builders at all. So they are super lightning fast. But whenever you have to create a related record or you have to call an action, then you have to choose the right box, which is this one, actions and related records. And you are going to see hidden, buried in the description, there's a word after. So this one is for after save. This is the one we need this time. Now, we are going to update the pick list value hot, the rating pick list value on this opportunity that triggered the flow. I'm sorry, on this lead that triggered the flow. And we are going to create a task. Again, when creating a task, I can use the create records element. And again, similar to process builder, I have to remember all the field values that I need to fill in and the required ones and so on. And again, I need to create a formula for 7 days from now. And it's going to be very simple again, but I need to go in and create a new resource, and that needs to be the formula, and put +7 to the flow current date. There's actually, we have a readily available resource available to us, and we can use that one. We can refer to it and then add 7 days to it. And then I need to also refer to the record that triggered the flow, the lead record, and then grab the owner ID and the lead ID from that to assign to the newly created task. There is one other way, though. You can always use an action as well. Instead of doing a create record element, call an action to create a task. There's a new task action available also in your action element on the flow side. So now use case 3. I mean, in use case 3, I don't even have much to show you on how it works. It just generates an email. It's an email alert. We use workflow rules quite a bit for this purpose. So it's going to send to the contact on the case, and then CC an internal contact as well, that a case has been created with the subject and with this case number. And we are going to get in contact with you in the next 24 hours or whatever your SLA may be. So how do we do that on the workflow rule side? It's very simple. So on the workflow rule side, again, we trigger our workflow very similar to the previous examples, but this time on a new case creation. And then we define an alert, and this is going to be an email alert that uses a classic email template. We can either use classic or lightning email template, but I had a classic email template readily available to me, which is called support column case created in parentheses web inquiries. And this is available to you in your DevWorks. You can play with this. So whenever the case origin equals web, I'm going to use this web inquiries email template to send an alert out to the contact that's related to the case, and also CC an internal contact when I'm doing so. And on the process builder side, I get to use the same email action. Once I create the email action on the workflow side, I can call it from process. You know the drill on this side, like when a new case is created and email origin is web, then I go ahead and send the email out. And I'm going to just call the email web case, the classic email on the new web case action. That's how I named the email action that I have created on the workflow side. I'm just going to call that one and then, pass to it a record ID. That's it. And the good news is it's super simple on the flow builder side too. I mean, let me just show you. So let's go into our instance so that I can show you this one. So I am actually I have already created and tested this flow before this session. So I am going to create a new record triggered flow that's going to trigger on case creation and when a record is created. And my entry condition is going to say when the origin equals web, go ahead and run this flow. And in this case, again, we are going to use actions and related records because we need to call an action. It's just, in the name, we have to call an action. And we only need one element. That's simple, folks. I mean, you go into your action and then you call the email action that you have already created on the workflow rule side, and then you pass a record ID to it. It's that simple. Once you do that, your email alert action is going to call the classic email template, do the merge fields, and send the email to the specified recipients. So if you wanted to, if your workflow rule email alerts work already and you don't need to do anything about them, you don't need to migrate them to Flow yet. But if you want to combine a couple of things together and you want to manage everything on the Flow side, then this is definitely something you might want to look into. But there is another way on the Flow side. We can actually use the send email simple action to create an email. We don't have to use the email alert. And this is a different way of working. And again, you call an action, and amongst the actions that you can call, there's an action called send email simple action. And this allows me to pass variable values or static text. I can, for example, start typing subject in here if it's going to be static. or I can pass to it resource values, and I can either give the email to input, either input a single email, a static email, or a variable value, or I can actually pass to it multiple email addresses, either comma separated or in a collection. And I can also use rich text formatting here. This is really cool. And the way this works is you need to create resources to pass to your body and subject if you want those to be variable. And those resources are going to be on your left side. So for the body, you create a text template, and your text template you can copy over from your email alert if you'd like. The syntax and the notation is going to be a little bit different here. As you will remember from the previous use case, we have to refer to the $record field values in the $record notation. These are going to be the field values of the record that triggered the flow. And we can construct this in rich text format. We can view this as rich text. We can edit it with HTML tags and save it. And we can also insert here custom object text field values or custom metadata if you want to get fancy. You know, if you want to make this variable, that way you actually remove your dependency from your email templates if you'd like to do so. And this is my email subject formula. Email subject formula is, again, a simple formula that was constructed in a similar fashion. I mean, similar to the first use case that you have seen. It's just of type text, a variable of type text. And once I do that, I get the email that I have just shown you on my presentation page. So this is, in fact, an email that was sent using the simple email action from within the flow versus the alert, the email alert function that we have created on the workflow side. All right, so now why flow? You may ask yourself, you know, why should I start using flow? Well, part of the reason is because Salesforce said we are retiring everything else, but, you know, we have a lot of time to still learn flow and, you know, migrate our automation. There's going to be a time when all new automation will have to be created on the flow side, but it's not very close. The reason is our fast field updates on the flow side can be run before save. And this is very, very fast and efficient. It is a method that was only available to Apex triggers and developers before. Now they are available also for admins to use. This is super powerful. So if you can migrate your automation on the workflow side, simple field updates, and the process side to before save on the flow side, that's superpower. And you can use your email alerts as well on the flow side. You don't have to rewrite and recreate everything if you don't want to. Or if you want to reconstruct and then use different functionality, you have the rich text email simple action functionality. You can now use subflows on the flow side for after save and for all the different flow types. We have not even touched the other flow types. I mean, the record triggered flow functionality is the corresponding functionality to workflow rules and process builders. They do all that and more. And then we have a bunch of other flow types that you can use for other automation. And we get to debug. This is huge because I call workflow rules and process builders blindfolded automation. When you come to the process, when you come to the flow builder side, you can run your automation in debug mode and see all the field values that are being passed, all the error messages where you are in your elements. You'll see the path highlighted in yellow that your flow took. It is fantastic. So, folks, what's next? Open a sandbox or a dev org, right? Open your learning resources, we have many. I am doing a lot of those, but I'm just only one guy doing some stuff on the flow side. We have so many valuable resources, MVPs, enthusiasts, users, Salesforce themselves, blogs, videos. Go ahead and investigate and start experimenting. There is only one way here. You got to experiment and you got to learn for yourself, and you got to break it and you got to fix it. And, we got your back. Power Hour is here. I'm here. We'll help you if you're a first-time flow builder. So, yeah, that concludes my presentation. I thank you for your attention and for participating, for listening to me. And please share your feedback with us on this session. There's a link here on your screen. I included a QR code for you too. You can just scan it right now and then give your feedback. And we have another session coming on December 14th, and it's on Einstein Prediction Builder. That's going to be exciting as well. So you see my social channels over here again. Obviously, ask your questions now, but if you come up with questions later on, you can find me.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was a fantastic presentation. We have time now for some questions. One came in already, so I'll give that to you, Andy. The question is, can we use email response to create web to case? So basically, is it possible, we saw outgoing emails. Do you know, is there a way to use Flow to create cases from incoming emails? I think that's what the question is asking.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not spent any time on that. I will need to explore that. Obviously, we can create cases using flows. The question is, how do you trigger it? When the email comes in? I think email becomes a record inside Salesforce, right, Sarah? You'll know this one better. So based on the email creation, I can, based on the email record creation, I can obviously create a case. Yeah, that should be possible.
This question also might be asking, I'm not entirely sure, but it could be, and feel free to clarify, Leandro. You could also, perhaps if you get a case from a web to case form, say from your website, somebody fills out a form on your website and it creates a case, you could use that as a record trigger for sending a response email saying something like, thank you, we've received your case, we'll be in touch. You can definitely do that. Yeah. For sure. So
yeah, I mean, there are many different ways that you can use to create a record inside Salesforce, right? You can use like something like a form assembly tool, form stack tool or something. You can use a community page yourself to create a record inside Salesforce. You can do a visual force page. And, as soon as you create a record inside Salesforce, you can do anything that you can do on flows based on that record being created. You can trigger it, and then you can do whatever you like with it.
Yep. All right, here's another question. I was wondering, what's the easiest way to select a person to assign the task to in Flow, since it requires an ID? How would you recommend adding a person to the task that you create?
Yeah, well, we have a couple of resources already available to us. This is related to the flow side, I believe, right? So we know actually the owner of the record that triggered the flow. That's a good one usually that we want to use. So, for example, we want to create a task based on the opportunity, and we know the owner of the opportunity, so we can use that. We can go from the owner of the opportunity to other users if we have, roles and managers defined and things like that. We should be able to do that. That's another way of doing things. And another thing would be the user who created the opportunity, if they are different than the owner, or for example, the user who triggered the flow I was going to say, but in that case, it is actually the person who created the record the same. Now, if you want to look up other users, you are always able to do that. User is a record inside Salesforce using a get element. You are already in after save space. You're doing actions and related records. So you can do a get on the user records and then say, I want to get the user ID for the user whose full name is Andy Atkin. And then you are going to get that ID and you can pass that to your task.
Yep. So in this case, they say they want the task to go to their service person. So you would do a get records element, look up that service person, either using their name or their title for their role maybe.
Yeah.
And then Flow will store their ID as a variable that you can use in the task creation element.
Yeah, we recommend always, instead of hard coding IDs inside the Flow, which you can do, but it's not good practice. I just get them by name, like that way, if the name doesn't change, you are going to be fine. And you are going to be also fine deploying from one org to another. Sometimes when you do that, in some cases, you'll get a different ID for the same record.
Yep. You could also store, if you do have just a specific ID, you can always store that as a custom label or custom metadata, and then use that in your flow as well. That is another
custom setting.
Yeah, custom setting, any of those where.
Yeah, all kinds of custom object, even custom object, but it's not a great use case for this.
Yeah, it's true that the workflow builder will just allow you to look up that person, assign them, and with Flow you do have to add that extra step, but it's definitely possible. Another question, how can you formulate a date time to be used for the date of activity, but set it to always the same time? So like 8 a.m. Eastern, maybe apply it to an event. So if you're creating an event in Flow and you want to have it at a certain date, but you want to set the time as well, is there a formula for that?
Yeah, well, actually there is. So you get a couple of global resources inside your Flow. I use the Flow current date and Flow current date and time a lot. That's available for you in your resource picker as you're picking things. So what you can do is you can grab the Flow current date and then combine that with date and time operation functions with 8 a.m. That's possible. So you'll have to Google a little bit, like every successful Flow builder, you have to master Googling. Or you can find me and ask that question. I'll look a little bit further into that for you.
Yeah, and I'll put my contact in the chat as well, because I'm always happy for folks to reach out and we can walk through specific use cases. All right, we still have time for a few more questions if anybody else has one. Just scan the chat here. All right. I'm not seeing anything else come in. Any other words of wisdom, last thoughts to share, Andy?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things I wanted to emphasize one more time because these things came up. Well, first of all, with summer 21, I believe, we have a change in before save flows. It's been a while, but I still get a similar question from multiple people, so I wanted to emphasize that. So with summer 21, Salesforce made an update element available in before save flows. And the update element in before save flows is actually an assignment element under the hood. We don't really get an update on in our before save mode, in our before save operations. That's the one that was later relabeled to fast field updates. So I'm going to get to that. In fact, when you insert an update element in your before save flow, there's a radio button over there that shows a couple of different options. You get all the other options grayed out, and the only thing you can do is you can update the record that triggered the flow. That's the only thing you can do. The reason being is under the hood, it's an assignment element. Salesforce just wanted to make sure new learners should not have to think about whether they are going to use an assignment or an update. Before that change, we used only assignment in before save, and we only used update in after save. Now we can use update in both. But just so you know, you can in before save, you can use either assignment or update, but they are the same thing. So, you know, I get that question or comment quite a bit saying, well, you should have been using assignment. It doesn't matter. They are the same thing. So in fact, I'm changing also my lingo to that so that, you know, new learners won't have to think about what to choose. You know, always choose the update to update the same record that triggered the flow. The other change that came in winter 22 and that you have seen already on your screen as I was building a new flow is the screen that you get right after you click on new flow and then record triggered flow. That's a big screen that gives you multiple options on one screen. And that brought a couple of different parameters together, which is nice. We used to do that in 2 different steps. We had to pick a couple of things initially, and then it would start our canvas, and then we would double click on the start element. We don't really have to do that anymore. We can choose everything on one screen, which is nice. And that also introduced that lingo that you've seen before save. Instead of before save, we have now fast field updates. And instead of after save, we have actions and related records. So if you know the previous terms, you shouldn't get confused. This is how those are structured.
Yeah, thanks for helping us keep up with all the language changes. It comes fast and furious sometimes. And as this presentation has shown, and many of us know, there's always more than one way to do something in Salesforce. So thanks for showing us some great ways. All right. I think that about wraps it up for today's Platform Power Hour, but do be sure to join us next month on December 14th. We're going to be featuring Einstein Prediction Builder, which is something that I don't know as much about. So I'm really, really excited for that. And of course, if you have any feedback about this session, we'd love to hear it. We do read all of the surveys and make changes based on your feedback. So Ashley has posted those links in the chat. This recording will be available later on. So if you could only join us halfway through, you can catch up on the first half later on the recording. So thank you from the Platform Power Hour Committee, myself, Sarah Pilzer, Andy Utkin, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.